Hi folks, welcome back to Game Geeks. I'm your host, Kurt Wiegel. Today's episode, 2 new adventures for the Call of Cthulhu role-playing game. Both of these published by Miskatonic River Press. This is a licensee of the Call of Cthulhu game from Chaosium. The first one we're going to talk about are New Tales of the Miskatonic Valley. These are 6 new adventures that are written for the basic area of New England that Lovecraft wrote a lot of his stories in. In case you don't know, it includes such towns as Arkham, Dunwich, Innsmouth, Kingsport, Martins Beach, etc. Now, what this is it's basically new adventures, 1 night or maybe 2 night adventures, not a long campaign for you to put in there. Now, it's very hard to describe adventures in reviewing them without giving away a lot of what's going on. So I'm just going to try to give these the best surface coverage I can, and if you like what you see, go and seek these out, because they're actually very interesting adventures to have for your Call of Cthulhu library. The first one, The Reeling Midnight, is pretty, what I would call mythos light. The critters don't come in toward more of the end of it. It's much more of a role-playing game, which deals with a lot of the indulgence and decadence of society in the 1920s. Then you have Wasted Youth, which deals with basically bad kids running away and a lot of the bad stuff that goes on in the Cthulhu mythos. The Spirit of Industry, which is an adventure that takes you back to Dunwich, which is something you usually don't go to very often in Lovecraft, because Dunwich was pretty well done by the end of the Dunwich Horror. Then you get Proof of Life, which is a sort of an extortion and a ransoming sort of game that deals with that has a spin on the mythos with it, which is in a new Lovecraft country town. And before a lot of you go, oh, gasp, shock, horror, nothing new, folks, Lovecraft wanted his stuff to be expanded. And finally, you're back in Kingsport for Malice Everlasting. This is a really good book of adventures for Call of Cthulhu that has the usual things you'd expect, player handouts, and some creepy stuff that you have to investigate. Now, a second product, which is a really unique take on the mythos, is Our Ladies of Sorrow, which deal with a non-mythos threat. This is a non-mythos campaign, but it's still nasty, it's still scary, and it's still got a lot of horror. The 3 Ladies of Sorrow are originally mentioned, that I've seen in a Cthulhu product, all the way back in the Malleus Monstrorum, where it specifically mentions them in that sort of, in a Cthulhu mythos setting. As I said, this is a non-mythos campaign. That is, you won't necessarily see these as avatars of Nyarlathotep or Shub-Niggurath, although I suppose if you absolutely had to shoehorn them in there, you could, but I wouldn't recommend it. This deals with Tenebrum, Suspirorum, and Lacrimarium. This deals a lot with the 3 Ladies of Sorrow, with very similar names that Dario Argento put out in his 3 trilogy of films, Suspiria, Inferno, and Lady of Tears. I think that's it. It's a relatively new one. It has his daughter, Asia Argento, in it. Seek these out. I apologize for not having that queued up in my brain at the time, but if you like Italian horror, take a look at them. It's very, very good for that genre. This takes you through an entire campaign in the modern era that dealing with these 3 very powerful witches who gain more power as they are together. What can you expect from this product? Well, honestly, for some pretty bad stuff to happen to your characters. More so than even most Cthulhu games. There's also an appendix that deals nicely with the Ladies of Sorrow, relating them to other trinities of ladies that you see in the past. The Fates from the witches from Macbeth, deals in them with the Gorgons, the Muses, etc. Again, I don't like to give too much away for adventures, but of the 2, this is discrete adventures, and if that's what you like for your Cthulhu campaigns, then it's well worth your time to get a hold of these, because they're sort of a different approach to than what you've seen a lot lately. It's almost more of a classic treatment of the subject. The Ladies of Sorrow, I like modern campaigns for Cthulhu more than I like the 20s. I feel like the 20s are a little dated, and a lot of players can't get themselves in that mindset unless they're fans automatically of that setting. This is a modern setting that you could probably shoehorn fairly easily into, say, a Delta Green or a more government-based conspiracy investigation approach. For Game Geeks, I'm your host, Kurt Wiegel. Good day and good gaming.